from Somalia. Yeah, I own restaurants and commercial properties. I'm a restaurant guy, and also I own warehouses. We do distribution. We do most likely a food services most of the time. So.
We call him with all the issues with licensing and
Restaurants.
try to get help.
Warehouses, restaurants.
Most of restaurants, like
A lot
all
of those
restaurants, they
businesses
have
in
some sort of
the food services industry.
Yep.
Yeah, if you need like machines, like
Yes.
like ovens,
Coffee
and
machines,
coffee
ovens,
and
and
all that.
Anything, yeah.
You just
So,
do the supplier.
Yeah. We called Suleiman because in the beginning of the COVID, they were the actual restaurant that stepped up to service our elderly. It started with the elderly and then went down to children and families that weren't able to feed their children. Yeah. So then we said, hey, reach out to other restaurants, and they took that upon themselves. Yeah.
Especially kids when they don't go to schools. There's a lot of issues.
And he's a huge contributor to Mayor Fry, so we figured, okay, this is a good guy.
I'm here to.
Yeah.
So,
I hope he remembers.
Yeah.
He remembers, but we also gently remind him. So, Nasro, Ikram, and Blackie, they are business leaders amongst business leaders.
Right.
Organizing hundreds of other small businesses in their industries and sectors, and they're here today as representatives of their cohort.
Ikram, what's your last name?
Mohammed.
Okay.
Mohamed.
Also add this.
There's so many spellings to
explain
Mohammed.
to kids very important concept where.
And this what's your last name?
Abshir. ABSHIR.
Because there's a difference between just like businesses want to come together and people who know how to organize. Like literally the first time when we say Isaiah and Muslim Coalition, all this, people didn't know how to be a member as a business, organization or association. Like they asked me, why do I need to be a member of that? And now today they're like at a point you just send the link, they sign up.
Right, because they get it.
It's just a lot easier.
The
The
monthly
fees.
due. It's like a union.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
They understand the
Mahad-
concept now.
Mahad, tell me your last name again.
Omar.
Omar. And Mumbai?
Yep.
What's the last name?
Abshir Omar.
Abshir Omar.
So Mumbai is the actual association,
Yeah,
Minnesota
Minority.
Minority.
Yeah.
That was like Bombay.
I was gonna say.
Sounds like some African name.
Yeah, Mumbai.
You're from Gambia.
So the thing is, I'm gonna let you, Brother Abshir. Inshallah, he's very well rounded, knows a lot of ins and outs of these compliances and also the system, how it works, because I'm a little bit an old, school.
And he understands how politics works. This
Yeah.
man was the actual campaign manager for Bernie Sanders. So let's not sugarcoat that. He knows how to work the angles.
So, the Minnesota Minority Business Association is a collaborative of over 600 businesses from various industries in the care economy. And the one thing that they all have in common outside of their ethnic origins is the battles they've been facing with NDE, DHS, NDH, and various other state agencies that manage the care economy here in Minnesota.
Counties.
And the counties,
Hennepin
absolutely.
County, Ramsey County's not bad, but Hennepin County and
Absolutely. And their commonality is that every time East African business owners enter a market segment, these various departments and counties come in arbitrary fashions, create unnecessary roadblocks and hurdles, and at times conduct business in a very racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic manner. And our community has spent millions of dollars hiring lawyers to sue to protect our businesses, and these attacks keep coming. In the last few years, business owners from the childcare sector came together and they started organizing, and they started becoming a little bit more proactive in fighting for their businesses and their communities. And we've also seen that in other various groups from the care economy. But what MMBA is doing is bringing together these varied sectors of the care economy to work together in collaboration to organize money, to organize people in order to achieve our legislative aims, right? We're not asking for anything special. We're asking to be treated just like any other business in the state and to be respected in that sense. But sadly, we have to organize and spend money to do that. But that's the cost of business of living here in America. And we understand that. But what we are seeing today is our business leaders are moving from our parents' generation to my generation. And we operate a lot differently. We don't have the same fear that our parents did. We understand how the laws work in this country, but more importantly, how power is actually achieved and it is used for your aims. And we are interested in protecting our resources that we are currently having, right? Our business owners, the properties that we own, the lines of businesses that we operate in. We're interested in protecting what we have currently and also in expanding our scope. And we are organizing in a very different way. So MMVA, we have a C4 now. And we are not going to be as quiet and amenable as our parents' generation. We are going to be loud and aggressive. And we are going to be organizing for our interests. We don't care about the person's hue, their religion, their background, who they're friends with. We are interested in, are you aligned with our vision and our values? And we are willing to put our money where our mouths are in that sense. Helping elected officials that are interested in protecting communities of color specifically and creating a business atmosphere that's fair and equal. Not one where we are targeted arbitrarily and capriciously by different departments because of the origin of our nation and our religion and our color in that sense. But I'm preaching to the choir. You serving in Congress, I still remember when I lived in Seattle when that debate was happening about you swearing in on the Quran. Your basic faith being intact. But alhamdulillah, Ilahi conspired with you. And you shut them the hell up.
Just fight together.
In that sense. And your time in Congress, one of the most difficult periods politically for Muslims in this country. And you having to fight that battle alone. And then now in the Attorney General's seat, and that difficult battle you have to take to get there. And as you're well aware of, this community has been behind you, and we continue to stand behind you. But we are dealing with some very difficult market forces acting against us. And it is costing us tens of millions of dollars a year in legal defenses, in businesses closing, in the psyche of our community being fractured.
And it's wrong.
And it's absolutely wrong. It's illegal, it's immoral, and it is not what should be happening here. But alhamdulillah, we've come together, we put our resources behind each other, and we are moving in a coordinated fashion to protect our interests.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm very concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run the agencies.
Absolutely, yeah.
But let me just finish by saying, but often the agencies call on my lawyers to represent them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's good that we're talking because we've been in a series of conversations with Jody Harpstead as late as a week ago on how you cannot crunch down on these, because here's the thing, is as big as you are collectively, most are pretty small. And you're running small, tiny businesses out of business over nothing. And a lot of times, if you think there's a problem, I mean, look, everybody has to comply with what the rules are. But if somebody submits something that's not in the right format, then you call them and say, this is not in the right format. Not you're out, you're done, your contracts are over. And so this has my attention. I'm extremely frustrated by it, but we are in the middle of a battle with the agencies now. And I can tell you this, Walls agrees with me that this piddly, stupid stuff running small people out of business is terrible. But it's the problem of it's the problem of, it's the classic problem. If he's here and this guy here is giving these businesses a hard time, these folks somehow say, hey, they're picking on me, and he's like, oh, us? No, we're not. And so it's this back and forth. So now what we got to do is make it clear that this guy has got to stop it, right? But it's the but he knows that there's a lot of unfair, discriminatory stuff going on with East African businesses. I know it. these department heads, like, you know, Julie Herbstead, now know that we know it, and she says we're going to stop doing it. But I don't believe it until you tell me they've stopped doing it. Because it's all about when the rubber hits the road, right, or the car, you know, what's going to happen then. You can say you're not doing it, but if some sister who just opened her childcare business is getting the runaround,
Absolutely.
then for her it's real. So we've got to stay specific. There will be cases that, you know, I want you to feel free to call me directly. You know, feel free to call me directly. And it is my goal to see prosperity among people who've been denied it. You know, I think it's very kind and important for you to say that new American communities appreciate the sacrifices of people who come before, but we're all in this together. Right? You see what I'm saying? I think it's kind of you to say it, and I appreciate it, but we don't recognize no differences between us. We're one, and we're going to stand up for each other and make sure that we get some things fixed.
Absolutely.
I do recognize there's a problem, but what I really need to move to be effective on your behalf is to get specific.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you know, this sister on this day is having this problem on this, and then I can call up and be like, what is the problem? And let me tell you, just being able to say, just getting the question, just getting the inquiry from the AG is sometimes enough to make people knock it off. It's like, oh, because they're doing this under cover of darkness. You know, so
Absolutely.
anyway, I was
No, absolutely, I appreciate that. And in regards to what you're talking about, it's a very serious dynamic that's at play. And Ikram and Nasra can speak to this specifically. There was an incident not too long ago. A childcare center, a Somali-owned childcare center, was severely treated for misplacing and miscategorizing paperwork, minor infractions, human error. And they were shut down, I believe. And during the same time frame, a childcare center, Kindercare, taking care of a child with Down syndrome in a feeding tube, was allowed to wander outside the facility and into a local pond, and was retrieved by a neighbor in that community. And all they received was $1,000 slap on the wrist. The disparities between treatment is real, and it is costing livelihoods and destroying the community in that sense. But we want to get really specific here. And I work in the political field, and I understand very well how all this operates. And if I want to be frank, and I think everyone in this room wants to be frank, and this is a safe space, we're a collective in that sense. There is a fight, there's a battle in this state, as well as in this country, for communities that look like us, having to fight to protect and keep what we have. And the only way we can protect what we have is by inserting ourselves into the political arena, putting our votes where it needs to be, but most importantly, putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates that will fight to protect our interests.
That's right.
You can only protect our interests when we have your back, and you don't have to worry about who's behind you, right? And we have to be frank and honest. You are dealing with market forces and political situations, and you have to operate in the best manner that you can operate in this state, with your donors, with your power base. But if you are secure in your donor base, and if you are secure in your power base, you can act the way you want to act.
Money is freedom, so
Absolutely. And our community, our business owners, we are not the same community as 25 years ago. The amount of money circulating in our community today is powerful. And we haven't really harnessed it in a very meaningful way to support people at the highest level and ensure that they are comfortable and safe, knowing that they can advocate for our communities without regard to your next fundraiser. Acting in the best interests of the community. And for example, right now, one of the biggest issues facing in our community is the CACFP program and how the Department of Education...
Wait a minute. What is that?
Child and Adult Care Food Program. CACFP.
They got all these alphabets.
Different names.
So many acronyms.
Right. Children.
Child and Adult Care Food Program. It is a program from the USDA. It's available in all 50 states and territories, and it's managed by generally the Department of Education in each state. It's federal dollars funneled into the state to feed children and adults with developmental disabilities.
Oh, run by Department.
So
of
it's
Ed.
the at risk.
Run by USA.
Yeah, USDA.
USDA.
Yes. Yeah.
And this program has been around since the 1960s. It's the sister program of Free and Reduced. Free and Reduced ensures children have access to food while they're at school.
It was actually started by an African American.
Really?
Yes, sir.
And CACFP was started
was
to
from
ensure that
California,
children have
yeah.
access to food
Black
once they leave
Panthers?
school.
Yeah, Black
And they
Panthers
go home.
started, yeah.
Sorry.
And it's been around since.
So who's giving? So is it federally funded, locally
Administered
Yeah.
by the state, by MDE.
Okay.
And the Department of Education has been managing this program for several decades. And due to the COVID pandemic, the U.S. federal government instituted changes to the management of the program, which allowed for expanded access to communities in our state. And there has been tremendous growth, right? Our community members and business owners have stepped up to ensure that we're feeding thousands of children every single week, making sure they have access to healthy, high-quality, nutritious meals at home.
Culturally
And
appropriate.
culturally appropriate. Culturally specific for the Asian communities, for the Latina communities, for the Muslim communities, African American community, and the Caucasian community, and indigenous communities. It is a massive program that has brought hundreds of millions of dollars to the state of Minnesota, created thousands of jobs, strengthened the capacities of hundreds of nonprofits. But MDE saw a bunch of East African business owners taking part, and just like we've seen with MDH, DHS, and the various other programs, they came down hard. And we have been fighting for our lives, and we have been kicking their butt. But we cannot be in this position where we are on defensive mode all day long. It's bad for business. You cannot grow. You can't create new jobs. It is bad for our community. It's discriminatory.
What are they doing? Are they denying?
They stopped the program carte blanche. They said there's too many people being fed. Carte blanche. I'm just going to jump in and.
So what happened was when the COVID hit, people like or business owners like Afro Deli, Kahine, Safari Restaurant, which is these guys,
Your
took initiative.
Safari.
Yeah, took initiative.
People know you by your,
By the restaurant.
yeah.
Took the initiative to provide meals to our elderly. That's how it started. And then to families who said, well, it's not only them. We can't get out of our house. Moms were single moms.
So, so help me understand how the money flows. So the money flows from the federal government to the state, MDE, and then the MDE picks vendors out.
So the way it works is that United States Department of Agriculture
Got it.
has the puddle, right? And then they give it to MDE to administer,
States, right?
to be able to, make sure the guidelines and
Yeah,
protocol,
compliance,
yes,
blah, blah, blah.
yes, red tapes, are done. Then MDE has contracts and agreements with sponsors. Those sponsors have other contracts with sites.
Who's an
Sites
example of
meaning
a sponsor?
partners in quality care or
Like a
Feeding Our
nonprofit or something?
Future. They are a nonprofit. They're all nonprofits.
Got it.
So then they actually host a contract with MDE. Then MDE says, you're a multi-site sponsor. I'm a sponsor, by the way.
So the state send it to a nonprofit who's a sponsor.
Yes,
Charter schools
That's
are sponsor. Public schools are a sponsor.
yes. Not only nonprofit, but childcare. So I'm a self-sponsor.
And
Example
you got
being,
to be a sponsor.
I go
fill out
directly
an
with
application.
MDE. Then MDE only reimburses me for the children that I bill because I'm a self-sponsor.
Got it.
But
so then you
Nasra,
say, I fed a bunch of kids.
then I
Here's
get
the
reimbursed
invoice.
for it. There you go.
got it.
But
Yeah.
a child care
They
like
just pay a little
Nasra,
cheaper, but
who has a contract with a sponsor like Quality Care or Feeding Our Future, she then sends her bill to them. They send it to MDE. So they're basically like the middlemen.
So in a way, if MDE cuts you, you could spend a bunch of money feeding kids, and they won't honor your bill.
There are.
So
They
you
have done
spend the
that.
money first, then you get paid back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a reimbursement.
So you could get messed up.
This has happened.
There,
to
it
us a couple
has. It
times,
has.
so
It has happened.
There are
So the
groups that are
pushback
owed
that we have
$500,000,
faced.
200,000 groups that are owed $2 million.
Yes.
And MDE has refused to honor the contracts as stipulated by federal law.
Based on them claiming non-compliance.
No, based on what they have claimed so far, is the fact that the program grew too fast. The COVID hit, everybody went into
So they're
get
saying
involved.
that they're saying we're giving you your money, we just can't get it to you fast enough. Is that what they're saying?
So yep, that.
Okay, so that one so that's super unfortunate, but it might not be malicious.
Nope, it becomes malicious.
Okay.
That's
So
how it
then
started.
that's how it started.
But they starting their story, they're narrating their story, how it started.
Yes.
Oh, you're
It's
giving
not
me
where
that.
it's at right now.
So what happened is MDE had a lot of applications by two major sponsors.
Got it.
Those two sponsors, they share one common ground. They share the East African community. They share the fact that a lot of the Somalis have stepped up and said, wait a minute, I'm a restaurant. Safari stepped up, and Safari's all over. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is volunteering over there. I want to be like that. I'm a restaurant and I got shut down. Who do I get a contract with? Look for a sponsor. So then those two sponsors, one thing they have common ground on is the fact that they have served the Somali community. So they both felt like they had to because of the COVID, because of the riots, to be honest with you. I don't know if you remember, but George Floyd, it became a huge ordeal when the restaurants, when the Mama Papa stores shut down. Cub Foods, Target, from Mississippi River by Lake all the way to Uptown. There's no way that those people would be able to go get food from. People were getting on buses. There was no transportation. So then these two sponsors said, hey, let's feed the people in the community and get reimbursed right, because this is actual entitled funding. It's not state funding. It's USDA entitled funding. MDE only has to administer it. So then those two sponsors, when they did that and they saw the community step up to the plate and service, there was lines at Safari looping around Lake Street, and it was on Facebook, and a lot of community members said, I want to do it too. They stepped in. They did the same thing, whether it was mosques, nonprofits, or restaurants. MDE put a pause to it. They put a stop pay. Then they denied 142 applications on one sponsor and 208 on the other sponsor.
So say those numbers again.
208 sites on one sponsor and 142 sites on the other. Stopped, halted.
And just to put into
With the
context-
payments, they put over $6 million on hold.
So to put into a context, this system, because I've been part of a faith coalitions, many churches used to do for the last 30, 40 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, they've been doing it.
Meals on Wheels.
Of course.
So
It's
this-
USDA.
this-
I know the guy who runs Meals on Wheels.
Yes. Veep.
Dave Collin?
Dave
Collins,
Collins,
yep.
Veep, you know Veep. That's like they are in a big, large, second harvest. All these big, gigantic, per se, some of them are non-profit and some of them are for-profit, are running this. You can see it has been, one of the stories I have seen, one of the white lady who worked in this industry for those big non-profits, she said, this program has been feeding rural area and mostly white people for the last whatever years. Nobody complained. 90% used to go to white kids. And now, when North Minneapolis and brother
Jamil.
brother
Jamil Jackson.
Jamil Jackson and sister Nasro, they opened their own sites and now understood how to feed the community.
Because we were doing it
Halal,
for free
not
first.
pork. That the community is not like eating what you give them for the whole day, whether it has a pork or not.
And they're
But
culturally
halal,
appropriate.
nutrition appropriate and everything, and then now it's got the attention of MDE. This is literally, it should be something that they should come out and say, celebrate with the community.
They should.
They should. But they state that 95% white and 5% black. Now this is just coming down on these 1% or whatever that is. And the minority trying to serve, because our mosque was part of it. City Bloomington came forward and they named me the 2021 the pioneer and change maker of the community.
Sure.
The imam, notable imam, like a neighbor, a good neighbor, something like that. Because of this, we've been serving with the city school district, Bloomington School District, and also the mosque. Mosque is giving this every Friday, every weekend, these meals, and the people are appreciating it. But yet, you see, this is like a huge take on. I mean, this is one of the examples of the things that these businesses are going through.
And sad thing is, I'm sorry to interject, but even with Taro Faro being so huge, they're still being targeted. I mean, the city of Minneapolis Health Department has been giving you guys a lot of just questions, Q&As, constant.
And the county health department.
No, Bloomington.
Oh, I think
Bloomington Health
Department.
Department, because one of your staff members had reached out to me and said, hey, I need your help. And I asked him what's going on, and he said, hey, I got a checklist that I'm supposed to go abide by. I said, okay, which sponsor are you with? And he shared it with me. And then I asked him a couple more questions, and it just sounded ridiculous. What that woman said to me was they have instructions from MDE to go to every site at that sponsor. The sponsor and MDE are having some dispute. So
As a sponsor,
the sponsor actually took the initiative to sue. Good for her. I love it. But I do feel like there's a backlash that we are like not able to comprehend. MDE had contracted with all or sent out a memo to all the departments of health in the cities, whether it's Brooklyn Park, City of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, for instance, and they're told to look at 4 or 5 different things. My question is, what does Department of Health have to do with if the children are enrolled at a certain site? Things like that to me make no sense. No, they have no basis.
The fire department in Bloomington were given food in our parking lot,
They didn't get Q&As. They didn't get questions or pushbacks.
And giving food, and this is the same contract, and Dara Farouk was giving food. People are not going to the fire department, but
they're coming to you guys
because
because you're providing culturally appropriate foods. Those are the different things.
So if I can conceptualize it a little bit, the way the program works is the USDA provides funding to each state's Department of Education to manage this program. The Department of Education contracts with sponsors to manage the program for them. And these sponsors go out to nonprofits, churches, mosques, synagogues, school districts, community centers, and they provide them a subcontract to actually provide the services to the communities they serve. These nonprofits buy food wholesale from vendors, distributors. They can go to Cisco Foods, Costco, or the local Halal Mart to get their products. They pay out of pocket to buy the food. They serve the children. After the service has been provided, they bill the sponsor bills the state bills the federal government. And Washington will send the money down to the state, and it goes back in order. This program has been a lifeline for hundreds of thousands of children in our state. One sponsor, for example, Feeding Our Future, feeds 150,000 to 150,000 kids.
I've heard that name.
Right? And NDE has fought in very disgusting ways. And I mean beyond any level of decency.
Do you have a name?
Monica Herrera, Director of Food and Nutrition Services. NDE has acted so recklessly that a district court judge in Minnesota found them in contempt for arbitrary and capricious behavior, and stated in his opinion he did not have any faith that they would follow his court order, which they did not. And Monica Herrera, in her public statement, said she disagreed with the judge in the court and that she would do it all over again. This is a form of violence against our community under the color of law, and it shouldn't stand.
And they had to pay a fee. I remember they had to pay a restitution. MDE had to pay tax dollars.
That's the case.
Taxpayers'
The other case
dollars.
the other case I want also to add for us to kind of the DHS and how they are like taking on the child carers and also the the licensing program for the child carers.
What did she say in her own defense? Did she say it's not my fault? Is this? Is that? What is her position? How does she justify her actions?
Her statement was she did not agree with the court's decision, and the judge in his statement, we'll get the statement to you via email.
Well,
You can read
I'm
it.
looking for the statement now.
The judge basically stated he had no faith. He had no faith that the Department of Education would follow the court directive, which they did not, and other injunctions were filed against them. But basically, we have a reckless department on the loose that's not following state law, and you are in the difficult position under statutory law to defend that department.
Well,
And
there's
your
a-
office is spending a lot of money defending criminal-like behavior, and
Well-
you are required to.
well,
But
here's the thing. This is the first I'm really hearing about it.
okay,
You know, I got 400 people at the AG's
Yeah.
office. They get calls.
Yeah.
We have a case which represent us. They don't run them all past me. They just know they're supposed to do this. But when you tell me, hey, this is a problem, I call somebody and say, what's going on? And if we don't want to do what the agency's saying, please do, I call the agency head or the governor and say, we cannot do this. I mean, we do this fairly regularly. Usually it's environmental stuff when, you know, we have to say we're not going to defend that. You know, and there's other things. And then they got to negotiate. Or we tell them, you're going to get sued. You cannot violate the law this way. And so this is a very good conversation to have. And quite honestly, I wouldn't even know about it unless you told me. Because I only hear about problems, right? But Monica Herrera, so while we were talking, I sent a note to my staff named Luz Frias, who I think supervises the lawyers who represent MDE. And I asked her, what is going on here? Luz, can you tell me who represents MDE? What's going on with the child and adult food program? Hearing a lot of complaints. So I should hear something pretty soon.
So something interesting that I wanted to add to. I remember we got called in. MDE, once they decided to stop the payment, you have all these vendors who bought food, who have been distributing it for 30 days, and all of a sudden they're being told, we don't know what's going to happen. The program is suspended indefinite. We brought about 350 of them into one place. And we said, make no mistake, that this is not against the particular sponsor. The only reason why they're so angry and they're doing this is A, they think they could get away with it. B, and NDE does not understand the power you all have. After that meeting, they start receiving phone calls, people start calling them, and they're like, oh, these people organize themselves. Within weeks, they said, okay, we don't have a problem, we release the payment. We're like, okay, if you have a problem, and we've seen this with DHS, if the department has a problem with particular individuals or they don't like how the program is being run, you don't come and shut down the entire program.
When people have expended money.
Exactly, right?
So what I'm getting is, people will say, spend money to feed people, and then expect to be reimbursed,
Yes.
and then not.
And the ones
That's what's happening, right?
Yeah, not only they're not, but they trying to do everything in their power to send and use the system against these people so they can get they can get crimes that they can use and label everybody.
And for example, what Sheikh Adab is talking about, right now, the legal fight against MDE to stop them from acting this way has been very successful, right? But they are continually changing tactics. And their new tactic is death by attrition, right? They're trying to snuff people out, going out of their way to work with local city departments, health departments, fire inspection teams, instituting new rules
Like
that have no
asking-
basis in state or federal
Let me
law.
just say in our case,
Yeah.
asking the fire department to investigate this building,
Oh, wow.
whether
That's
the
terrible.
code of the building allows.
Is this kind of about what you're talking about? Minnesota allowed feeding our future applications to languish during pandemic
Yeah,
lawsuit alleged.
that's one of the groups that has been
That's one of the
fighting.
groups, I think.
But that's just an example of how MDE has been targeting the East African community, who are
Because it's
working
not only
in-
one particular sponsor.
It's not-
This
there's
is the
over
entire
18 sponsors in
program.
the state.
Yeah, this is the entire program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is back November 2020.
And
This is over a year ago.
Yeah, speaking of that, we had about 100 plus child care centers that mainly come under two different sponsors. And I remember them saying that, hey, listen, I've already fed these kids and I cannot get reimbursement. And some of these childcare centers have 40 kids, some have 100 kids. Some of them are delivering the food. And these are, programs that have been running for the past 20 years. These kids have been with them. And all of a sudden, because of COVID, 40 kids have to stay home, maybe 20 are at the center. And they're like, wait, how am I supposed to afford? Most of my employees are gone. I'm not getting the proper bill. And now they're asking me to pay for the food. And when we asked, MDE, what is your explanation? These people have fed the kids. This person has 40, that person has 100, this person, what is your explanation? They had no explanation. We should just shut down the entire program. No explanation. So this is...
I hear you.
some of
So
the things I've seen.
do y'all know Mekfira Hussein?
She's a nonprofit with Oroma Feeds and Shamsia Hopes.
Okay. Yeah, she's got an article in the Mekfira Hussein's meal program have been feeding 5,000 children a day in the Twin Cities. A state effort to discipline an intermediary nonprofit forced her to suspend operations. This is the heart of the problem, right? And this article is May 2021.
Oh, this has been going on for some time.
What the heck, man? Who's minding the store? I don't tolerate problems to go on this.
I mean, you guys defended. Unfortunately, you're by default.
He
But
has
yeah.
division chiefs, and he doesn't.
No, but nobody. You know what they do? We get cases in, and they say it's like this. We're being sued. Okay, well, what do? They do the same thing.
And then they run back to you.
Well, they do the same thing every time they get sued. So whenever the state gets sued, it's always the attorney general
That defends it. Well, yeah.
It's always. That's by Minnesota Statute 8.06. That's part of what the AG does. Now that doesn't mean that if we're defending the wrong thing, that we just keep on doing it. You all bringing this to, I'm telling you, this has not come to my attention until now, really. I mean, I've heard this little problem, that little problem, but never this way,
Yeah, the thing, Brother Keith, let me just put it this way. What we want here today is to establish this relationship. Not only one program over another. It's like...
This is a lot. This is like right now. It's only been one program that we talked about, not the others.
That's the thing.
Yes.
That's the thing. I just want to say it this way, brother. I mean, if you ever heard this program called medical transportations, there are families who went into their homes went to foreclosure because their program and businesses have been shut down by just one letter.
And guess what? It's one letter. Everyone received the same letter. The only thing they changed is the address and the
time frame.
Are they saying that you didn't really give the rides?
No.
What is the claim?
So previously the claim, this was way back. So there has been the fight. The state has been going on for a long time. Those particular businesses, most of them went out of business today. Actually, about 2 weeks ago, some of them came to our office and they're like, "Hey, we're about 20 plus, and now we can't even afford the rights that we're giving. It's not sustainable. Is there any way we could raise the rates?" So those medical transportation, the state fought them. They haven't found anything. They passed a law to eventually suspend them. And then if you're a business and your business has been suspended for a long time, you're not getting bail, you just go out of business. Right. So most of them just went out of business.
So brother, this is the concept, brother Keith. This is the concept. The state they have contracts they give. They are work that people do for the state. Starting from the largest insurances who are billing the state or federal government. Insurance owned by white people. Nobody questions. There is last time you remember, your office knows that there was $1 billion fraud money in the insurance industry that has been investigated. And what they did, they assigned and allocated a team of lawyers to give compliance trainings and to show them how to do. This is like $1 billion billing. Somebody billed the state, and also it was like a huge case. But yet, what's happening here? The state employees, the technocrat people who work under you, develop this kind of concept where if a black community, if they see like a progress of somebody billing the state, whether it's MDE, DHS, MDH. If somebody's billing the state over a certain amount of money, it's
They're obligated to.
automatically red flag.
Yes.
So we need to have.
They've said that to us at DHS.
Yes.
They
said
verbally,
out loud.
Reggie Wagner verbally said that to us.
Yeah, remember when
We
said,
follow the money.
and we said how do you determine
How do you
who to
determine
go after?
fraud?
They said we look at who's billing the most. So if I'm a childcare center who's located in North Minneapolis and I happen to have 100 kids that are all low income,
All CCAP.
all CCAP, oh yeah, that's a red flag.
Yep.
Straight up.
Yep.
Jim Couple, who was there then said, listen, this department is so racist. Even if you replace the director,
You
the-
can't.
The director gets washed
And
out.
that was the commissioner.
Commissioner cannot do anything. He said we have to fire the entire, like people who were working for 30, 35 years, 40 years in this department. Like speaking
So-
about the same thing, the same issue about autistic children. There is Somali huge numbers of kids who are autistic.
1 in 32.
And-
There's
and-
statistics.
yes, and also we don't have the services, people who understand the culture of these kids, because these kids cannot take care of themselves. So, anybody who's serving
you
them,
say that like the commissioner can't solve this
Yeah,
problem?
you know what he said? This is what he said.
Though that was his full comment.
Remember, this is what he said. The commissioner, the one that got replaced.
Jim Couple.
No, not Jim Couple. The new commissioner that got.
Jody Hurst.
Jody. Yeah.
No, before.
Yeah,
guy who used to be a
Ed-
senator.
Before him.
Oh, Steve Kelly. No, he was commerce.
He was there shortly. Dorn, myself.
Yeah.
You know, we
it
went
was
to him. We said, hey,
the DHS
listen.
commissioner that used to be a state rep. And then
He was
After Jim
Tony
Couple.
Lord.
Yeah,
Yes,
Tony
there
Lord.
you go.
We went to him. I said, Tony, look at this problem. He said, listen, I see the problem. And with this new department of the OIG, they have hired a team. Loose cannon. He said, all of them, I can see they're racist, but do you want me to fire all of them? He said, you need to give me some time to work this out. Before he worked out, he was worked out.
Firing a government employee is like impossible.
all the investigators,
Ex-CIA.
ex-cop, ex-sheriff.
And all they're doing, guess what they're doing? Actually, there was a lady that sent me a video the other day. She said they came to my childcare, taking pictures, going around, counting how many kids are going in. That particular department.
Oh, they
was
took
doing-
fake pictures
Yeah.
of that girl. That man called me. He said they took pictures of my staff, like it was some mugshot.
So these guys, they were giving a budget. So DHS is even worse. They're given a budget, $5 million every single year. They've hired, what is it called, ex-cops, ex-army. They're getting paid $40+ and their job, because they can't find anything, every single day, one of the provider called me. He said, the mom leaves the house, picks up her kid. This guy would follow. This is where she went. She dropped off the kids. She was late for 5 minutes. Entire report. Like, wait, you're getting paid $40 to follow a mom that's making $12. What are you investigating? So we're talking about a
Follow anybody
department
for-
that.
So basically, what we're talking about here, General Ellison, is we have systemic patterns of abuse, waste, and fraud
Yeah.
from the departments, claiming the same from minority business owners. And we've taken it far too long, but we are not willing to operate under that paradigm anymore.
Okay.
And we are jumping into the fight with some serious money, serious organizing, and we need you in this fight with us. And I know you're going to get hit hard, but we are going to commit to backing you.
How am I going to get hit hard?
Politically.
How? From who? Where?
Opponents, establishment, they're hitting you hard all the time.
Yeah, so nothing's new.
But what we're saying is,
I'm gonna get a new hit, but I haven't.
but what we're saying is, we want to invest
You know what?
in
I showed you the
leaders.
letters they threatened to kill me last week.
Last week.
Yeah.
Last week, and Ilhan gets more. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What we're
yeah.
saying is,
And like she gets
we
every
need,
day.
we need to cultivate our leaders to fight for these communities, and not just that, to grow and develop and bring a new generation of leaders into office. And we are ready and willing to back those efforts all the way. But we need a true and steadfast partner to fight for basic justice. And that is your MO.
well, brother, let me just tell you this.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm here to help. I mean, but let me be clear. I'm not here because I think it's going to help my reelection. I don't care about no reelection. I voluntarily threw my congressional career away. I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's boring to me. So to do this, to do what I'm doing now. So of course, I didn't leave that job to do nothing in this job. I mean, am I going to get more hits than I got by prosecuting a police officer and giving them life in prison? Right? So we're going to, so let's just go fight these people. So the question is figuring out exactly how to put a stop to it, right?
So what happened?
The how is the real question for me
Boys.
here. The how. How do we do it?
Yeah.
Because we
It's
know
not
we
why
should do
what
it.
you're doing, yeah.
We kind of know a little bit about who's doing it. And now we need to figure out exactly how we deal
Let me
with
just
it.
give you an example.
Yeah.
Like last time when there was the peak of Minneapolis election, and Jacob Fry and everything was going
All
on.
that.
So the community kind of faced a lot of pushback from the MDE. So this is a department where almost every person who is in the department is fighting anyone who is minority. The MDE through DHS. So what happened was some of our leaders in the community went to Jacob Fry and said, we cannot function, we cannot do any business, and this is what's happening. So Jacob Fry went up, put together a resolution from the city council saying, I'm gonna announce from the city of Minneapolis that MDE is a department that racism is legal. And he put it together and he sent to them. Guess what they did? They withdrew everything.
I don't get it.
Like
They came to him, this is what they said. Why do you want to publish this resolution? And then after having a conversation with him, they said, we're afraid of USDA coming down. So
Why would USDA come
this,
down?
he said,
Yeah,
this
they're
is
the ones
this
giving
is-
the money.
This is the reason why we're acting the way we're
So
acting.
everybody blames somebody else.
Yes.
They passed the buck.
They passed the
It's
buck.
the buck, yes.
And then he
Not
said,
gonna
listen,
find the road, yeah.
so they just don't
So what
publish
they
the
did was
resolution.
that time they shut down all the sites and all this. They shut down the kind of saying we are not. That's the time they said we are not paying the money,
Stop pay.
and then they released the money immediately.
Do-
They released the reimbursement. Just
Okay,
like
okay, they said they stopped
They
paying.
stopped. They're not paying. They remember 2 months or 3 months they hold.
But then
it.
they released the money.
They released because of that, because he lobbied. He literally went to the governor office. He went to, because he's like fighting for his election, and Somalia is like a tiebreaker. So he needs this community. And then they literally worked together with the Jacob, and that's why I was like, no, we have better leaders who are moral-based leaders who are in this fight with us. All we need is to have connection and to build the bridge between us, so we can our complaints. Like somebody like you can talk to the government. You can say, hey, what's going
talk to the
on?
governor anytime.
Yes, what's going on? And also, we need. Not
But I would
only-
bet the governor doesn't know much about it.
I know that nobody knows except the
People on the ground.
It's sort of like the vendors, the providers, and then the low level bureaucrat.
Yeah.
That's who knows what's going on.
Yeah. Person answering the phones. I just want to say, to just sort of like summarize everything that's happening. So USDA is giving the money to MDE. Once the pandemic started, they started giving out these waivers. That's why all of us were able to join the programs, because we weren't before. So they made all these waivers to say, hey, we want to feed more kids. We know the food insecurity is getting even more because of the pandemic. So we want to feed more families and more children. So that was the point. Then when that happens and you have all these new people joining saying, hey, we're feeding all these children, now all of a sudden that's a problem because the type of children that are being fed. Because before, when it was just white kids, it was no problem. Now all of a sudden, all these new people can join this program, and we're saying, hey, there's actually a need. There's a huge line. Today it's snowing. There's so many people still coming to get food because people are hungry. People have lost their jobs. People have to decide, should I get groceries or pay my electric bill this month? Like, it's really serious. And instead of saying, hey, wow, we have all these new people, let's hire more staff. If people are doing something wrong, let's do our actual jobs and find that, while at the same time making sure the program is running smoothly, because these are children that need food and it's very serious. So instead of being able to do more than one thing as a huge department with tons of money, we need to pause while we figure something out.
But as they're pausing, they're running people out of business.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's the intention.
point. You
That's
are a
what they
vendor,
do all the
you are a
time.
vendor, you put $200,000 into this, you sold this food to this person, and all of a sudden you're not getting your money. What happens?
30th. April 30th.
You're done?
You're done.
And you still got people who
April
you
30th
owe
and-
money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Governmental.
And then people are, and then you decide, okay, let me
September.
pause until I get reimbursed. And people are still coming to your door saying, hey, you just gave us food last week. We were counting on you.
Yeah.
You don't have food. And then what are you
There
gonna
are
do?
vendors
Wait, now
who
nonprofit
provided
ako lang.
services in the beginning of 2020
So April
in the
30th
millions
came pause.
that have not received
Then
payment
makina
as of
furay
today.
lahat dito ng restaurant.
Could you let me give you an email, okay?
Okay,
Send it to this email. Send it to my government email.
1 second.
Keith, whenever you're ready.
Keith,
KEITH dot Ellison ELLISON at AG dot state dot
ag.state.mn.
.us, and just send me the names of all these folks who are just hung up and like hanging on by a thread and barely gonna and probably ain't gonna survive unless they get their money soon. That I can take that list and start saying, and I can call Joey Harpstead,
Yes.
the person over at Education,
Mhm.
and say what is going on, why am I getting these complaints, and start and I'll call them in my office and demand some explanations,
Mhm.
right?
I'm one of them. Those guys you're talking about. April 30th, I got shut down and they put me on pause.
You say April?
April 30th.
Yeah.
You mean throughout the whole summer and the fall?
Yep. And I
So
have.
You ain't
I
got
have
no money since then.
no. Yeah. I have like 10 pilots sitting up there at Safari. Serial pilots. They expired. It's about like $80,000 worth.
So the
This
lawsuit
is
actually initiated from the restaurants, especially Safari. Safari was the largest, and obviously being the largest restaurant, they had that big old wedding hall. They would host families to come in, pick up their food. So a lot of the people, instead of going to a small restaurant, they went to theirs because it just would go faster. They had walkie-talkies, the whole
Also,
nine
this
You were
yards.
giving hot meals.
Now
right?
they would get cooked meals.
There is this important.
You can't know him.
When going to the safari, getting food, there's no shame in it.
Right.
Like you're not getting like free, like you're not getting church.
It's a cooked
People who
food,
come
you
into
know.
the mosque, they feel like shame a little bit.
Yes.
When you go, this is like he sacrificed his restaurant, who were like having a huge business, just to run this, family-based, children-based food services, and now there's like.
So then when they did that, they said restaurants can no longer participate because they're not nonprofits. But it wasn't the restaurants. So the way it works and the way legally, the way it's supposed to work is that the sponsor holds a site of, they contract out basically. So they'll say, we'll lease your place, but you have to close down your restaurant because you can't double dip. So then the restaurant has to close down.
I don't get it.
So so in order for
What's double dipping?
So they would have, they could
running the
charge.
program and having their restaurant,
restaurant
Yeah.
open.
Like a regular business.
under federal law.
How's that double
Because they
dipping?
have to by law. It is actual law that a site has to have a 501c3c. I mean 501
But you can still,
501(c).
You
So
can still get a 501c3
yes.
and still
Yeah,
give
but that's the law. That's
This
the law.
where
So
we-
that's the
people
law.
are-
So instead of
this
this
where paying
guy,
customers
That's
are.
actually, that wasn't a law. Actually, they just made that law.
no, so then
It's a bullshit law.
So then what a lot of the sponsors did,
Yeah,
one in
basically-
particular that
basically
actually
he has to
sued
shut down his
MDE,
restaurant.
that had to sue MDE was that they partner up with vendors
Yeah.
and restaurants.
And I
One of
found
them
the
being,
lawsuit.
yes, so one of them being Safari. Now they actually have a contract with Shanghai, a Chinese vendor. That's not shut down. Okay, can't touch that. Can't touch that. But Safari was denied once again this fall. So before she had to do a lawsuit, now again they get denied. The only way Safari can operate as if it was actually a nonprofit. Now you have to remember, the property can never be a nonprofit. There's a landlord for safaris. So that building is never going to be nonprofit owned. But the person that leases off of there can be the 501c3. And those are the things that MDE does and still continue to do. And they deny us to have access.
So, Brother Keith, I mean, this is very simple.
So I already got my team digging into this.
Okay.
I've been, multitasking. And when should we come together again to discuss this?
When you have
I mean,
some,
I would say this is what we want. We want more of this. I mean, it's not only based on one issue. One thing. I want to establish this team.
So what's today? The 11th.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got to go down to Columbia on the 20th of December.